Excuse me. I don't like the new frame of this thing. It's kind of weird. I feel like I'm just in a fake location. Good evening. Good evening. It is Tuesday, October 28th, 7 p.m. on the East Coast. This is Community Conversations. My name is Ethan. I'll be your host this evening. As always, take a moment to come in, say hi, let me know you're here. And as always, we take a couple of minutes to let people jump in and say hello. So we shall do that. There's all these new features on here, so I'm just trying to figure out what it all means. Oh, that's better. Hi, Jenna. Good to see you. If you're just joining us, take your time, get settled, grab a snack. It's starting to get cold in some places, so grab a blanket. Say hi. Let me know you're here, where you're from. Yeah, we'll get started in a couple minutes. And of course, if you have any questions out of the gate, feel free to load them into the comments and ask away. I really should have brushed my hair. Yeah, it's okay. Beep. Just give it a couple more minutes, maybe one. I was trying to pull up. Whoops. Hi, Judy. So for you, it's Wednesday, October 29th. Welcome from the future. Thank you for being here. Robert Spence in the house. Good to see you, Robert, from my hometown. All right. If you're just joining us, please feel free to say hi in the comments, say hello, let me know where you're from. I'll go ahead and get through the boring stuff so we can get to some actual conversation that is community. Hey, Maya. That's a great problem to have. I'm so glad college is busy. Hopefully a good crazy busy. I find a good crazy busy can sometimes be really nice. It's better than actually, when I'm crazy busy, I wish I were bored. And when I'm bored, I wish I were crazy busy. So I'm never really happy, but hopefully you're having a good time. All right. My name is Ethan. This is Community Conversation. Community Conversation is intended to serve as educational content and is not intended to replace therapy because I'm not a therapist. For treatment-related questions, please be sure to work with your local provider or contact a local clinician. The IOCDF is not a crisis lifeline. If you're ever feeling suicidal or unsafe, please call the Suicide and Crisis Hotline at 988. You can also go to your local emergency room or call 911. And as always, we want to create a safe space and be kind to everyone and respectful. At the end of the day, we are here to support one another. And always keep in mind, this is being broadcast on several social media platforms and is being recorded. So keep that in mind as we divulge our deepest, darkest secrets. Hi from Orlando. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right. So how's everyone doing tonight? Fill me in. Give me the tea. Do people say that anymore? Or is it just the deets? Or that's really old? I'm behind on the cool words, but I'm trying. And that's all we can do. So let's see. We're coming up on the holidays. Beth Carducci in the house. Hey, Beth. Good to see you. So the holidays are coming up. It's a little early to have our anxiety around the holidays conversation because it happens every year, but it is coming up. So maybe we have anticipatory anxiety around the holidays and how the holidays can affect OCD. I've got some live streams in November, so we'll probably save that conversation. But Halloween is this Friday for those of you that observe or like to wear costumes or like candy. Either way, so yeah, it's getting to be that time when we have things to do and people to see. No, I am not, Beth. No, I would. I have no desire to cook a turkey again. Not because it was gross or it was raw. I just really didn't like the experience. It stressed me out. multiple thermometers coming out. Is it done? Is it not done? It was really stressful. Maybe after some practice, I'd get less stressed about it, but having nothing to do with the rawness factor and more to do with the fact that it just stressed me out. I'm not a cook in general, although I'm trying to be more of a cook. But that was, I think, over my pay grade at the time. So not this year, at least, but open to it in the future years. It is a lot of work for sure. I have a great picture of myself on my wall of different frames of me having my hand inside the turkey and stuff. So it's pretty funny. So it is up on my one of my walls in my office. But yeah, no, Nikki Bradley in the house, and hi Phyllis, good to see you. So as we start to trickle in here, I can always, I can talk, and I will talk the entire hour. But what's on your mind? Is there anything interesting you want to talk about? Any questions that you have? Any wins that you've had? Any things that you're struggling with? How's everyone doing? Yeah, I don't like this frame. Nope, that's not good. It's kind of a cool trick though. Oh, that's better. That's the old one. Okay. I like that better. This is I'm too much in your face, but I do like this. Let's leave it at this. Get some branding in, get some Ethan in. It all works out. Good, Jenna. I'm so glad. All good, Jenna. I'm good. You bought a frozen dinner for Thanksgiving for my. Hey, listen. You know what? That's easy, and you can just get cozy and warm and put a blanket on and put it in front of the TV and enjoy. How am I? I'm okay. I'm pretty good. It's been. You're just doing your best Yoda impersonation, Beth. Bought a frozen dinner for Thanksgiving for myself. I did. Yay. Sorry, never want to hear that again. I'm doing good, Jenna. I think it's been a little tricky overall. We're getting toward the end of the year. And so, which is good. I like this season. At the same time, I typically have, as of last year, some health checkups and things like that. I have a physical tomorrow. I have why can't I think of the word? A preventative test later in the month. I've got an MRI scan for the mass that they found in my stomach last year, which is benign. They're pretty sure this will be my year out MRI. So I call it scanxiety. I can't take credit for that. Some other amazing OCD advocates came up with that. But as I start to be in my face and not be able to compartmentalize it, I start to get a little anxious around it. Some of the health anxiety comes out, just kind of hangs over you. And I'm sure you all can relate. So that's kind of where I've been as these things start to come up on the calendar and have to face and deal with them. They're uncomfortable. I haven't changed anything about my life or what I'm doing, but I get kind of annoyed that it, sits over my head and I can't enjoy. Of course, it's a decision whether I enjoy or not, but regardless, nobody likes that stuff hanging over our heads. So I'm sure you all can relate. Otherwise, I'm doing pretty good and I can't complain. Good time with Katie, good time with family. Yeah, everything's good. VG asks, any advice for days when you give into compulsions like I did today? And of course, more urges and questions turn up. Of course, I know not to do one more check, just need some motivation. Yeah, for sure. It's a great question. I'll leave you up actually so I can see it. So first of all, the first place I'd start with is giving yourself lots of grace and compassion. This isn't a perfect science, and OCD can wax and wane, and depending on stress and depending on the trigger and where you are and what you're doing, you may decide to give into a compulsion, right? I may decide to give into a compulsion. I consider myself living in a place of maintenance and management. That doesn't mean that I don't have days where my brain is really loud and I may compulse, right? So I think the first thing we have to do is recognize how OCD behaves, what's usual for it, and then yes, we may in fact do a compulsion or two compulsions or many compulsions in a day, and giving ourselves some grace and space and compassion for doing so. No different than you're on a diet or trying to, take on a new lifestyle, food choices and things like that. And maybe you eat something fattening, right? It isn't the end of the world. It doesn't mean you ruined everything, although our black and white brains may tell us that. but really we just want to give ourselves room. So that's number one, because we can't really move forward if we're just beating ourselves up. And then number two, understanding that very fact that happens. That is the nature of OCD. So that means, just like things can pop up and feel overwhelming, it's the opposite. And you can come back down and just treat it like it is, which it is a blip, right? So what do we do with blips? Blips are blips. They're those little things on the radar that pop up and then they're over. And so what does it look like to be over? Of course, when you engage a compulsion, it makes the anxiety temporarily better and then worse. And then you want to engage in more compulsions, and you also beat yourself up for compulsing to begin with, because then you don't feel better, as you've laid out the cycle pretty well. One more check, one more thing, more urges, more questions, as opposed to just putting it to bed. So when you start to get stuck in that cycle, something that just helps me is to quickly identify what's important to me and what I'm giving up by doing compulsions. So, the first thing may be, what do I have to do today? And if I'm avoiding that thing or not engaging in that thing because I'm busy compulsing, then to make sure, even if I feel icky, to go ahead and start putting myself into something. It is an avoidance, right? Where it's opposite action. So we're going to do that thing that we should be doing. So whether that's work, whether that's a phone call, whether that's making a meal, getting lunch, running an errand, what is it that I should be doing right now that isn't compulsing, even if I don't feel like it? And that's the important factor, is that we don't have to do how we feel, because a lot of times we're not going to feel like doing this stuff. Feelings are they are definitely the enemy. In this case, I think they are one of the strongest tools OCD has to manipulate us to do what OCD wants. So on the front of motivation, so one step to motivate you is to understand what you're missing out on, what your values are, what you rather be doing than doing this, and put that first and foremost and in the front. So remind yourself that by choosing to compulse, you're saying no to the things you care about and the things you value most, right? So making that recognition is really important, and it really works for me to remind myself, like, by doing this thing, I'm saying no to calling my mom and wishing her happy birthday, or reaching out to my in-laws, or being present for Katie, right? What am I giving up? And that can be really motivating, because when you realize you're saying no to something that you really care about, at least for me, that motivates me. But motivation is only a part of it. As much as we want to feel like we want to stop doing whatever it is we want to do, we want to feel good. We have to take the emphasis off feel. The reality is we can move our bodies in any direction we want. We can make choices whether we feel like we want to do them or not. I have started going to the gym regularly. I am week 4 of 5 times a day workouts and new nutrition and things like that. And most of the time, I do not feel like going. I do not feel like getting my butt beat by a personal trainer. But I quickly try to use some acceptance commitment therapy tools and DBT tools. And while my brain is arguing, don't go, I want to go, I don't want to go, I don't feel like going, I bring myself to the gym. I let my brain argue and I don't get involved. It's an interesting practice to do that and just observe your brain arguing with itself. You should go, you shouldn't go. It's like, okay, well, you guys are arguing, I'm going to go over here and work out. But try to remove yourself from your feelings and just do it. You don't have to feel it to do it. And I think that's a really important thing to underscore. Otherwise, like I said, grace, compassion, identify your values, what's important to you, why you want to come back to the present moment, coming back to the present moment. What does that look like? Is it meditation? Is it looking around and noticing things? Is it, like I said, engaging in activity that can take your mind off of it? Because as we know, it can feel very irresponsible to not focus on the obsessions and then compulse. It feels scary, especially if it's moral scrupulosity or religious scrupulosity, or we've wronged someone in some way. We have to pay attention to it, right? It can feel very irresponsible to ignore the obsession and not compulse. But that's when you know that's exactly what you should be doing. So those are some immediate things that come to mind, VG. But if you have other thoughts, please feel free to ask away. Maya in the house. I just got into a new relationship, and I've noticed that my OCD is already trying to panic over whether I'm good enough for my girlfriend. I can't. This thing is in the way. Sorry. Any advice for dealing with OCD and new partners? Yeah, that's a great question. Um, you know, first of all, I want to highlight sort of the natural. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, Fiji. And yeah, I may not feel like it. Yeah, same thing. Perfect. I appreciate that. Sorry for a second, I was thinking something else, but thank you, VG. I appreciate it. So I want to highlight a couple things. The first thing is just the humanity of being involved in a new relationship. I think it is perfectly normal to question and ask all those questions, right? OCD thoughts are not unique to individuals with OCD. Thoughts are thoughts. And whether you have OCD or not, we have the same thoughts, right? The difference is we may start to hyper focus and loop on those thoughts, and that's where it differentiates. But the thoughts in and of themselves are the same. So I think we first have to identify and validate normal freaking thoughts. You're in a new relationship. Am I good enough? Will they see something that they don't like? Will they see something that they do like? Am I doing this? All of the insecure things that you're going to ask yourself are completely normal. So I realize you're probably talking about some ROCD or some self-esteem stuff that's popping up for you, but I do want to recognize that part of that is totally normal, right? But then the other pieces of the OCD that are completely, I mean, it's all valid, but that are specifically OCD. I think that, the advice I would give you is treat it just like any other, which is embracing the uncertainty of it, being willing for it to be true, while simultaneously trying to recognize that it is OCD, and move forward and enjoy the process. New relationships are so fun and exciting, and that heart racing and all of those things that go away after you've been married for 2 years to Katie. I'm totally kidding. I feel all those things. She's not home. That's a joke. Well, I screwed myself. Hopefully somebody's laughing at that. But no, I think that your goal is to be as present as possible. And I think because it's new and because it's value driven and it's because something you care about, OCD is immediately going to attack it. So that makes total sense. As far as, again, the advice for dealing with OCD and new partners, I really think don't feel like you have to talk about your OCD or confess that you have it. Thank you, Sam. I appreciate it. Or confess that you have it. When the time is right, the time will be right. You don't need to blurt it out right away. Maybe you've already talked about it, and that's okay too, Maya. There's no set rules, but I'm just saying your OCD is not your identity. So don't feel like you have to talk about it immediately. And secondly, just embracing that uncertainty. Be willing to not be good enough, but have fun in the process, right? Those thoughts are just thoughts, are just thoughts, are just thoughts, and they're going to be scary. And because this is new, it's going to grab you a little harder than some of your, older themes, maybe around things that have been around a while longer. And so these are going to seem a little bit scary, a little bit truer, and make you look in the mirror a little bit harder. So with that, try to give them a grain of salt. Try to coexist with those thoughts. Thank your brain for having them. That's oh so interesting. But what do the facts say? The reality is, my new girlfriend's with me. She's chosen me. We're together and we're having fun. So until I have facts that tell me otherwise, I'm going to be in this moment and have a good time, right? And you don't want to constantly do that, because then that is a compulsion, obviously. But identifying the fact that what evidence, what proof do I have, right, to lean toward this? But I mean, the insecurity is real, and I had it with Katie for many, many years. I'm not suggesting you'll have it for many years, but I'm just saying that is so normal, and I want to validate that. But yeah, just like anything else, and I know, again, it seems scary because this is new and exciting, but lean into it. Lean into it and just be your awesome self, Maya. And I think this girl is really freaking lucky to have you. And hopefully it's amazing and works out. But but just be willing to go with the flow. And if and when there's a bridge you have to cross, you will. Anxiety and OCD treatment in the house. Always like to highlight our friends there, Dr. Jason Spielman. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. If I say who he is to me, he's going to put something really secret about me on the chat, so I'm scared to say it. But if you're in the South Florida area, Dr. Spielman is a great treatment provider and was on my team early on. For those of you that know my story, that I was at NBI and he worked with me almost daily, if not daily. And we have lots of stories. And I know a lot of things about you, so careful, mister. Okay. But Maya, sending you all the love in the world. I know you'll have tons of support. My ears are always burning. In fact, now that you wrote that, I realized that she emailed me like 2 months ago, and I think it got buried and I never responded. So I'll just sit with the discomfort around that conversation. But the pictures looked awesome, and I'm glad you had a great time. She's doing great work internationally and really showing up and representing, OCD and game changers on an international stage. And filling a really necessary gap. And I'm really proud of Chrissy, and she's doing kick-ass things. So, pardon my cursing. I immediately want to curse when I talk about Chrissy. So I just held up my phone to Crab Kiwi. He thinks you look like a nice person. Well, thank you. Tell Kiwi thank you. I was hoping for more of a handsome, good-looking, studly person, but I appreciate that, Kiwi. Please tell Kiwi thank you for me. That made me laugh out loud, Robert. You work out 5 times a day. No, did I say that? You did not. 5 times a week, not 5 times a day. If I worked out 5 times a day, I'd be on a gurney somewhere. You know what I did for my health anxiety? Katie and I binge watched The Pit. If you're not familiar with it, it's from the creators of ER. It's a show on HBO Max about the ER. And I used to love medical shows, and I've noticed I've avoided them over the last decade or so just because I get so triggered. So I was like, it's great TV. I've read all the things about it. I'm in the industry, so I feel like I should be watching good stuff. And I thought it'd be like a fantastic, I almost said a killer. I was like, no, a fantastic. Oh, no wonder it's quiet. Cash isn't here. No one's threatened my life today. But I thought it'd be a great exposure. Loved the show. Watched all 15 episodes. It's amazing television. It's super depressing. But it's really, really good. So for those of you, it's a good opportunity if you have health anxiety to get in there and get dirty and see all the possible things that can be wrong with you. And if not, it's just great television. So, all right, cruising right along here. Oh, did I miss? I see Vivita. Hey, you. Hello, really missed this, but school. Oh, exams always get in the way. This is my senior year of college, and we barely get any sleep from all the work, but I'm really glad. I'm so glad you're here, and congratulations on hopefully crushing your senior year. That's super exciting, and what a huge testament to you. So awesome. Our Forge, part of letting go is not looking for that just right feeling. How do you go about avoiding the just right? Oh, this is a great question. I realized it was a question at first. So part of letting go is not looking for that just right feeling. How do you go about avoiding the just right feeling? So none of this is about avoidance. This is all about acceptance. So what does that mean exactly? Acceptance is literally just accepting the experience and the feelings of ick. Feeling a little off, not right, not at ease, whether it's a just right feeling or feeling like you have satiated the obsessive thought through compulsing, right? So it is your willingness to sit with the discomfort. It is your willingness to be okay, not being okay. That is the goal of all of this. So whether it's about feeling just right, because I have to sit a certain way or read a line in a book a certain way or walk through a doorway a certain way, or just feeling like an obsession. You can put an obsession to bed because you've dealt with it in a compulsive way. The goal here is, you are correct. It's not looking for that just right feeling, but it's also willing to not feel just right. There is just right OCD, which sometimes doesn't, it is just a feeling, right? So just right OCD, doesn't have necessarily a narrative behind it. If I don't put on this shirt, someone that I love will die. What if I accidentally hurt or kill, right? Those kind of things. Just right OCD can literally be, I do not feel right. I feel really uncomfortable until I do this thing over and over again till I feel right. Regardless of just right OCD or any other subtype or symptom, it is all about being okay not feeling right, right? Whether that's just right feeling or feeling anxious or uncomfortable or sitting with a fear. It's really about being willing to live life and move toward your values regardless of how you feel. Now, I'm not sitting here saying feelings aren't valid. Feelings are very valid, and your feelings are very valid, whether they're around OCD or not OCD. The question is whether we want to listen to them or not, right? So when it comes to love and Maya's new relationship, when it comes to work or passions or school, feelings matter. That we want to listen to those feelings. But feelings around OCD can be really tricky. Feelings around OCD, I like to think of as an illusionist performing tricks. They convince you of that thing. A thought is one thing. If you feel it, then it must be true, right? The feeling further backs up the thought and leads you toward that fact. It's a fact. It must be real if I feel it and think it. So the goal is to be willing to feel it. And so, you don't want to avoid. Really, you're avoiding the compulsion. You're avoiding the action. You're avoiding the attempt to reach a feeling of contentment and just right around your OCD. The more we accept this discomfort, the more we accept this this feeling of discontent, right? The more we're willing to sit with that ick, the less we'll feel it, the less we'll think it. It will start to dissipate, and it isn't overnight. It takes time. But the more we're willing to cope with it, the less it impacts us, and the more we get used to it. Just like anything else, just like any other skill or any other tool. Do you go? I went in a sauna. I rarely go in saunas, and I now go in a sauna, right? And like Katie, Katie's an athlete. She does tons of stuff. I went in the sauna, and in 2 minutes, I was like just pouring sweat. I think it took Katie like 10 or 15 minutes to even break a sweat, right? I'm sure when she first started, it's really, really hot, but you get used to it, right? You're accustomed to it. You adapt. Even though it's uncomfortable. I mean, some people like the heat. I hate the heat. So for me, it's ick. But over time, I'll get used to it until I won't notice it so much, right? And this is the same thing. The more you engage in your willingness to be uncomfortable, the more tolerant you will be of that discomfort. And the more tolerant you are of that discomfort, the better off you'll be when you're fighting your OCD. Hopefully that answered your question, but if you have any follow-ups, don't hesitate to chime in. Absolutely, Beth. I agree. Keep going on, even though you feel like it's not just right. You cannot make thoughts go away. And also agree. She is absolutely real about OCD. I'm glad Kiwi thinks I'm funny. We have to get back to him on the good-looking part. Maya, thank you. We've talked a little bit about anxiety together since she said she also has social anxiety. We've talked about the best ways we can support each other when these things. That's amazing. What an amazing conversation to have so early on in a relationship. Huge applause and kudos, Maya. That's freaking awesome. I love that you two feel safe enough to be able to have those discussions initially and ways to support each other. And it sounds like that's happened pretty organically, and so the rest will too. But, I think the biggest advice I can give you is I'm not telling you when to talk about it, but just remember that it isn't who you are. We shouldn't have shame around OCD. Dating is tricky with OCD. And I know for me, I always felt an urge to divulge immediately. Like, I have OCD and this is what it is and this is what it does and blah, 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 blah. Even when I was really not, OCD wasn't really impacting my life. I felt like, I should let them know I have this, this dark and questionable past. But I've said this before, if I had cancer 6 years ago and went through treatment and now I've been in remission, is that the first thing I'm going to tell them? No, it's probably not. Right. And so OCD is not my identity. It's not who I am. It's something that I have, and so if and when it comes up, I'll bring it up. If you advocate and it comes up, naturally in those ways. And so, when I was dating and advocating, people Googled me and it came up. So it did come up fast, but the gist of it is, Maya, and anyone else watching who's, dating or in a new relationship is just remember that, it doesn't define you. And so that shouldn't be something that you talk about right away. If it is something that consumes you so much that it is just, the majority of your day in terms of functioning and what you focus on. I'm not sitting here saying don't be in a relationship. It's yes and, but I would encourage you to really work on the wellness piece of it as well, so that your entire relationship isn't built around the OCD, right? It's built around the amazing person that you are. Right. Moving on. Robert, I don't know. He should just fill in for me because we always think the same things. And great word, luxuriate in it. Makes me want to have a cigarette. I've never smoked, but it does. Weird. VG, I know logic doesn't work with OCD. My hardest thing is to not try and logic my way out of my fears, especially with health anxiety. It feels so risky. I guess this is where acceptance comes in. I don't know why I'm showing you my water bottle. This is a great topic. I think we all try to logic our way out of it. OCD is illogical. And no matter how many times we try to figure it out and outthink it, it will outthink us every time because it doesn't make sense. So it will always come up with something new. Individuals with OCD are intrinsically more intelligent, more creative, vivid imagination, all those things. And so because of that, we actually do think we can outthink OCD. And I think the first and most important lesson is we cannot. So whether it's rewinding, ruminating, trying to figure it out, trying to re-see it, reobserve it, all those things, all that will keep us in the spiral and keep us in the loop, right? I do think that logic and facts have a place in treatment. I think that if I feel unsafe, and that something is a threat, I think that I'm allowed, and this is just my own personal experience, I think that I'm allowed to sit here and say, well, it's just a feeling, and no one has outwardly threatened me. And I did have an argument with my friend, and maybe my OCD is latching on to that. But as of right now, I don't have any facts to support my OCD hypothesis. So I'm going to take that as a clue that this is most likely OCD. It's the same with health anxiety, right? I have a headache. It could be 50,000 things, but I know that that I have health anxiety, and in the past I've worried that a headache is a brain tumor or is an aneurysm or whatever it is. I know the chances of this are very, very low. I also know that if I pursue that direction, it can make me very sick, meaning my OCD very sick, right? So until I have more facts and proof to back up those very small thoughts, I'm going to let that happen, and that can be scary. But that's the only logic I'll ever apply. You cannot, to your point, trying to outthink your way out of OCD and the fears is really a fool's quest. And it's very hard, as you said, it's very hard to not want to do that. Can feel very, very irresponsible. And you nailed it. It's where acceptance comes in, right? It's recognizing that you have OCD, your willingness to admit that. And then your belief that I know that I have this tendency to think this way or do these things. So I'm going to radically accept this belief that my thoughts can be a little faulty sometimes. And I'm going to take the chance. I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to be willing to sit with the discomfort. I'm going to do all of these things in an effort to move forward and not make myself sicker. And if that thing happens, right, then I will deal with it. And sometimes there is coincidence, Sometimes I will eat something. It happened with, I wrote a blog article many years ago called Death by Coleslaw. I ate coleslaw and it tasted a little funny. And I was like, is this bad? I'm like, oh no, that's just my OCD. I ate it and I got sick. So was my OCD right? Maybe. But at the end of the day, I was probably going to have thoughts about the coleslaw anyway. So the question becomes, should I have listened or shouldn't I have listened? I wouldn't change what I did. There's lots of time I've eaten lots of things that have been like, does that taste weird? And it's fine, right? So the point is, you do the best you can. Do not try to be perfect at this and ultimately you won't be. Number one, we're all human. And number two, it just leads to stress and exhaustion. But the other piece of it is, is that, I'll keep using health anxiety. There are lots and lots and lots of times I've wondered if I should go to the hospital or the ER, right? Over the course of my entire life, there's hundreds of times where I've either wanted to go because I wanted to get reassurance, or I wasn't sure if I needed to go and let me debate it and figure it out. There are a handful of times where I've without question knew I needed to go to the ER and went. So what are the differences? You know, you just know, whether it's health or fears or really, you just know. And it's that doubt that starts to interfere with our judgment. It impairs our decision making because we start to listen to that doubt. There was no doubt when I don't want to be graphic, but certain things that happened to me when I actually had to go. When I fell down the stairs and broke my foot and was lying there, I didn't question if I should go to the ER. I called Katie and I was like, I need to go to the hospital. I think I broke my foot. It wasn't like, did I break my foot? I'm not sure. I might have. Could I have? I knew. There's been other times where I've hurt myself and I wasn't sure and I really want, right? You just know. And you have to trust that. You have to trust your ability to discern what is and what isn't. And giving yourself that trust and that radical acceptance is really important in moving forward. I'm not sitting here saying that it's black and white every time, that it's super easy. There are shades of gray in almost everything that we do, right? But I know, and if there's doubt in there, if there's another example, I forgot what I bought, salmon or something, and like sometimes I'll smell it, which is a compulsion because I have a fear of like eating food that's bad, and I'll like, does this smell bad? Does this not smell bad? Katie, do you think this smells bad? Right? Well, whatever it was I bought, and I smelled it, and instantly it was horrific. I mean, awful. Smelled freaking disgusting. Immediately threw it away. No question in my mind that whatever it was, and I can't remember what it was bad. No question. But all the other times, I'm not sure, and I don't know, and kind of has a funky smell, and let me smell it 55 times. You just know. And I think we have to lean into that a little bit. We have to trust our instincts, and maybe we do get it wrong. But I'm telling you, it is worth it to live a OC-free, majority of time, healthy, full life. Oh, thank you. Hope all's well, and I can, and I hope you get through all this. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Oh, chemistry major. So, fun Ethan fact, I was terrible at math. Couldn't do math to save my life, but was really good at balancing equations. I don't know, man. VG says, I get stuck on the facts and proof, wanting to keep going over it. Yeah, we just talked. Exactly. Totally agree with you. I had two coincidences happen to me. I was petrified of getting dizzy and not being able to breathe. I got vertigo in 2011. Every once in a great while, I feel like I cannot breathe, right? Absolutely. I think that it is common for some of our biggest fears to come true. I always thought in the back of my head that like one day I'll go to the doctor. I have a physical tomorrow, so this is fun to say, but one day I'll go to the doctor for some reason and they'll find something that I wasn't expecting. And then when I went to the ER last year in Los Angeles, and I knew I had to go to the ER, wasn't even a question. And they discovered the small mass in my stomach. I mean, worst case scenario came true. Ended up being fine, so wasn't a worst case scenario. And it actually gave me a really amazing chance to fight OCD really hard and prove to myself that I still got it after all this time. And so, of course, there's lots of silver linings, and you may not be able to see them right away. So, yes, Dr. Grayson tells a very famous story about a client that he had that was afraid that she could kill people that she loved with her thoughts. So hopefully Dr. Grayson doesn't watch this because he hates when anybody else tells the story but him. So I apologize in advance. I'm taking your permission as a friend. So he challenged this client to kill 3 people with her mind. And I may be getting the story incorrectly, but a few days later, her father, who was on the list, died of a heart attack. And of course, this is like, like I can't imagine coming back from that. Let me just say that. And and Grayson says, okay, you got 2 more people to kill. Of course, that's not what he said the first time he met back with her, but in saying like maybe, but we have, and she never did kill 2 more people. And so yes, coincidences can happen, but they're not a reason to stop fighting. Vivid, I appreciate any tips on how to deal with extreme stress and workload and just lose by the end of the semester. And just, yeah, especially because I got off meds about 2 months ago and need to maintain recovery. Life balance, self-care. I mean, college is so stressful. Senior year is really stressful. At least it was for a lot of folks that I know. Getting off meds, I'm sure you had really good reasons for doing that. I think leaning in on your behavioral therapy, any treatment that you've had, not taking anything for granted in terms of that treatment and therapy. Micro avoidances can be can mount up pretty fast. In other words, if you catch yourself doing like small little compulsions or micro compulsions and micro avoidances, but if you find yourself doing little compulsions and things like that that don't seem like a big deal, they can add up. So catch yourself. If there's something real low hanging fruit that you fought off years ago, right, and you catch yourself doing it, don't give into it. Fight it now because it adds up over time. But a combination of relying on your tools and skills and self-care, giving your space and time to take care of yourself, do things that you love, get sleep, exercise, meditate, do the things that help us keep balanced. And listen, if you need a booster session or 2, don't be afraid to call. If you have a therapist or somebody that you've worked with in the past and you feel like you want to meet and connect, go to a support group. You are here right now. What a beautiful place to be. As you said, you haven't been here in a while. This is you doing amazing self-care. I can't think of a better way to do self-care than spend time with me. But all of those things. And, I don't keep all your options open. If in 2 months things feel overwhelming, don't stigmatize yourself if you need to get back on medication, right? We don't want to do that. I love that you got off of it. If that's the right decision for you. And I know so many people that have had amazing success just using behavioral treatment. So I think that's awesome. But don't feel like you're going backwards. I would much rather see you get back on medication with the help of a professional and stay in school, right? And keep doing the things that you love than you proving a point. It's not about, I couldn't do it myself or any of the stigmatizing things that we may say to ourselves. That may be the case. I'm just saying, keep all your options open. Keep all the tools in your tool belt accessible. Talking after 7 is hard. And just keep those options open. If you find yourself, really struggling, then utilize some of those options. You can start with the behavioral therapy. Absolutely. In the meantime, it sounds like you're doing great. It's going to be stressful. It's going to be hard. It's going to be exciting. I think the balance and self-care is honestly most important. Giving yourself lots of grace and self-compassion. It's not going to be a perfect science. It's not going to be a straight line. You're going to have obsessions. You're going to have compulsions, right? It's just managing them, keeping them blips, not making them or stressing them out any longer. Hopefully there's something in there that you can hold on to. But I think you're going to be in great shape. And again, at the end of the day, and I know it's hard, lean into your tools and skills, and up your ante. If you're feeling stress, when stress, OCD loves stress, that's totally normal. If you're feeling it, go ahead and up the skills, up the tools, up the fight that you have. Don't give in as easily. There's times where I am, my feet are to the flames and I'm really stressed and I know my OCD is getting loud and okay, I have to fight a little harder than I usually do. Sometimes I don't even notice I'm fighting, right? It just happens. But sometimes life can be really challenging and we know we have to up the ante. So maybe that's this time, right? Maybe that you have to really be that OCD warrior that you've been in the past, even if OCD isn't loud, but know that you have to be really vigilant and giving it a really good fight And that will keep it at bay as well. Yeah, it is for a lot of us, 100%. And well, I'll read it for those of you that are just listening. But trusting myself, whether or not it is in fact OCD, is very challenging for me. It really is. So I had a rule in treatment, and this rule was not given to me. This is when I was in active treatment. It was just assume it's all OCD. That really worked for me. It took the pressure off of trying to figure it out because I was very sick and in active treatment, and so it made sense. Sorry, I think my cat just threw up. That's weird and gross and triggering, but it's all good. Hi.
No, you said somebody threw
I thought you were up here. Oh, I thought I heard a weird noise.
Oh, no, it was just me.
Okay, hi, Katie.
I'm not a cat throwing up.
Okay, you're not my wife's not a cat throwing up. I got a good dig on you earlier. I'll play it back for you later. Yeah, they laughed.
Wait, what kind of dig?
They laughed. You have to sit
with the
you have to sit with that for 14 minutes. I know.
Hi, everyone.
Bye. Go away. It's my time.
Bye.
What? No. Stop. We're having serious conversation. You never know what will happen on community conversations. So for me, taking the pressure off trying to figure out what is and what isn't was really, really helpful. I think there is a lot of truth to that as you move into maintenance and recovery. It can become very compulsive trying to determine whether something is OCD or not OCD, especially as you move into treatment and then out of treatment and into maintenance and management. I like to treat, if there's doubt, if I have questions, I'm pretty good at pinpointing what is or isn't OCD. I have a pretty clear idea of how my brain works. But for those of you that are currently in treatment or OCD is really, really loud, we have to assume that it's attacking most things. And I think treating, there's nothing dangerous for the most part about living an uncertain life. There's nothing dangerous about not looking for certainty in situations. In fact, it's kind of a cool way to live, right? So, be willing to make the wrong decision. Be willing to make a mistake. Be willing to not get it perfectly. It is okay if you treat an OCD thought not like OCD and you treat a not OCD thought like OCD, right? We can all come back from those things. So give yourself room and compassion and grace to navigate those thoughts, but you don't want to spend too much time trying to determine whether they are or they're not. If you're currently in a place with OCD is pretty loud, me personally, I would just treat it as many thoughts possible like OCD if I'm getting stuck and move forward into value-driven decision-making. And then as I feel better, maybe I can discern a little bit more, as the OCD subsides, you gain objectivity and insight. And as you gain that objectivity and insight, you can start to discern clearer what is and what isn't. But when you're really in the thick of it, I would take the responsibility off, rely on the people around you, rely on treatment providers and therapists, let them tell you what is or isn't, what is a value and what is OCD, and and just sit in the back seat and be driven for a while as your brain starts to correct itself. But I totally relate, and I'm not at all saying that everything is super clear to me now. It's not, but I think determining those things is very challenging, and also tossing out there that what if I'm treating something like OCD when it isn't? And I know obviously it works both ways, but I've struggled with that as I've gotten better. Wait, in an effort to protect myself from getting sick again with OCD, am I treating something that shouldn't be treated like OCD as OCD? And that's hit me a few times pretty hard in the last 10 or 15 years should I have paid closer attention to that thing? Should I have not done that other thing? Should I have, did that need to be an exposure? Did I make a mistake in doing that? Did I risk something? OCD is tricky. It's tricky. All right. Beth, that's impressive. I like it. That means it's a good opportunity to go out now and do something. I think it's been too long. I do. I think you have to have at least one panic attack every 3 years for free admission into community conversations. So, it's a great cause. Chemistry is more than just math. It's actually worse, but balancing equations is the best part about it. Awesome. I love that. I don't remember what it means to balance equations. I just knew that I enjoyed it for some weird reason. VG, it's so true. These feelings, doubts, urges, or opportunities to practice. The desire for certainty is unattainable. Thank you so much you're so welcome, VG. Absolutely. Phyllis, after chemo, I got really ill, couldn't breathe, and had to temporarily go on oxygen. I learned to stay calm when I couldn't breathe well. I was amazed I could use my anti-OCD mindfulness skills. It's I feel like as horrible as OCD is and related disorders, these skills and tools, they work beyond OCD. Kind of feel like sometimes you can see the matrix, in terms of these hacks in life and where these skills and tools come into play. So helpful. And Phyllis, this is a remarkable example of that sounds terrifying, and your ability to stay calm and manage the anxiety through skills and tools you learn around mindfulness. I mean, yeah, I think that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. And me too. I hope you're doing well, Phyllis, today. I agree. There's no better way for self-care. Thanks a lot. Your words really help. You're welcome, Evita. Let's see here. We're always here to. We're always going to have to manage our OCD. It's just something that we are going to have to manage our OCD, but we can spend less time managing it, and that happens through acceptance, and that happens through commitment, and that happens through willingness to be uncomfortable and move toward our values. And hopefully, we're having to manage it way less, right? My goal isn't to live a completely OC-free life where I have no obsessions and no compulsions. That's just not realistic at this time. My goal is to have it not interfere with my functionality in life and have it bother me as little as possible. I would say that I get pretty much close to my goal more times than not. And, while OCD is chronic and there's not a cure yet, if I had to compare myself now to being completely bedridden and unable to function, I might as well be cured, because I'll take this life all day long. And I think that's important to recognize, especially for those folks that may be new watching or not commenting and newly diagnosed or really in the thick of it. You will hear that OCD is not curable as of right now, and that is true. It is a chronic disorder. But just like individuals with MS and diabetes and things like that, you can have many, 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 many days of life and living that is not dictated by OCD or disease, insert disease here. And sometimes we can't control when things flare up. It has nothing to do with what we did or what we didn't do or stress. Sometimes it just happens. That is the nature of the disorder, just like the diseases that I named, right? And those individuals get through them, and we do too. But there is so much in our control with treatment and with the insight and education that before we had this level of understanding about OCD, all of the things that we did felt out of our control. They did not feel like choices. They felt like things that we had to do, specifically the compulsions, right? But as you learn about OCD and you start to understand what it is and what the treatment is, there is a lot of power. You can take your power back from OCD once you understand that making OCD stronger through compulsive living is a choice. And it may not feel like that to some of you. And I know it didn't feel like that to me. In a world where you have so little control over things, you do have control over your focus and your behavior, and it's in your behavior where you choose how you respond to OCD. And so at the end of the day, once you have the skills and tools, you are in charge of your own recovery. You are in charge of whether or not, you have a relapse. And that isn't to say if you did or have or will, that you're to blame for that. You have a disease, and that is not your fault. I take a lot of comfort in knowing that I have a fair amount of control over, if my OCD gets loud, how far I tumble down the rabbit hole. And again, it's a disease, so that doesn't mean that I am fully, I've had times where my OCD has gotten really nasty. I'm sure you have as well. And I'm not sitting here saying, oh, it was your choice, you should blame yourself. Absolutely should not. Simply saying it's no different than, if you're on a medication for something and you stop taking the medication, you did because you did, and you have the disease, and maybe you get sick again, and, you shouldn't have stopped taking the medication. Maybe I shouldn't keep compulsing. But at the end of the day, we have the disorder. But I take a lot of comfort in knowing that it is not the amount of obsessive thoughts I have that dictate whether my OCD is getting worse. It's the amount that I compulse. Ultimately, the compulsions will lead to OCD getting louder. And I have lots of control over compulsions. And that makes me feel better. That makes me feel powerful because I can't control my obsessions, meaning the thoughts are thoughts. They're going to pop in and out. I'm going to have them whether I want to have them or not. And I mean thoughts in general, any thoughts at any given time. The OCD thoughts get loud and consistent because we are compulsing. So it feeds that OCD cycle and that OCD monster. If I stop compulsing and really embrace those thoughts, they start to dissipate. And that fact brings me comfort, even if I'm struggling with it, to know that at any point I can really attack this thing. And, I don't need anything to do that other than, a willingness to do that, the willingness to be scared and uncomfortable and simultaneously fight my shit. And it isn't easy. I don't say it lightly. It's not easy. Let's just say that the procedure that I have coming up, I've moved 4 times. It would be called avoiding. That is a compulsion. I'm not proud to say that. I'm just saying that because, I'm always honest with you. So, do as I say. Sometimes I do as I say, and sometimes I don't, but it's a process. All right. I'm a little bit behind now. How did you manage the fear when told you had a stomach mass, and how would you have dealt with it if it was cancer? Great question, Thomas. And a hard question to hear too, but I appreciate you asking it. Well, there was a turning point for me. And it was when I went to a surgeon, and he took a look at the MRI and had no bedside manner and said the worst possible crap. Best case scenario, they're going to have to dissect your bowels and remove your colon and like blah, blah, blah. It was crazy what this guy said. And, and then worst case scenario, it's stage 4, all that stuff. So I left and I was completely devastated. I mean, just minute I left the room with Katie, I was just bawling, hysterical. Life was over. But he had set me up with an oncologist to go over everything and really get to the root of like what is or what isn't. The surgeon just determined that they couldn't do a biopsy to check what it was or not. So the next night, Katie and I were supposed to go out, we had plans to go out with friends to an escape room. And I was really struggling. I was literally on the floor crying, rightfully so, validly so. And, Katie was with me and she was like, I'd really love for you to come. I'd really love for you to go do this thing. And I was like, I can't, I'm not, I can't. So she left and she was going to call our friends to tell them we couldn't go. And I had this moment, and this just comes from treatment and therapy. I had this moment where I recognized that even though the surgeon laid out all these terrifying possibilities, he didn't definitively tell me what it was because he didn't know. And that's why I had an oncology appointment in 2 weeks. I also recognized that this was the thing in the 14 years since I got better that would take me down and initially cause an OCD relapse because it was so terrifying. It so preyed on my biggest fears. And I just didn't want that to happen. I kind of instantly adopted this belief that if I have cancer, I'll deal with it. We'll deal with it. We'll figure it out. And in the meantime, I don't have enough proof to support that. And if I choose to not go tonight, it's my first step in going on that rapid decline where OCD is going to take this over and take away my life long before cancer ever will. So I made that decision and I got up and I yelled to Katie, let's go. And, I didn't have the best time, but I did it. And that year, 2024, I lived with insane amounts of doubt, around this. And because they couldn't biopsy it, we just had to keep an eye out on imaging. And I, waited 3 months and got another MRI, waited 6 months, and then got an MRI. And now this will be a year coming up in December. and we'll check it again, but they're pretty certain it's benign. Of course I have shit tons of fears, like it's been a year, what's changed, what's happened, has it grown? My mind is playing through a litany of fears and catastrophes, and I can't answer. I would like to tell you that I would have responded the same way. I have no idea. I have no idea how I would have responded. Probably like most people, I would have been devastated. How it would have impacted my OCD, I'd like to sit here and tell you I would have fought it. I did in this case with the uncertainty. If I had certainty, then I guess it's a matter of all the other what ifs. But I don't want to go there. It's challenging. I appreciate you asking that question. I have the skills and tools to deal with it. Whether I would have done that or not, I candidly don't know. I wish I could tell you, but I wouldn't be being honest with you if I'd said, oh yeah, I treat it just like that. There's uncertainty. And even if it's cancer, they don't know what stage there's treatment and blah, 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 blah. And I listen to the percentages. Who knows, right? But that's the way I handle it. I'm going into this next time, trusting the doctors that, it looked very benign. The last time they did imaging, I feel great. I have no reason to assume otherwise. I have no proof or data to tell me that something is different. So I'm going to trust that as I go into this next test and just take it a step at a time. So, but great question, Thomas. Really, really great question. So thank you for that. And hopefully that answered your question. All right, let's see here. Oh, sure. Rachel doesn't say hi to me, but she says hi to Katie. I get it. Rachel's, I feel like a comment's coming if she's still on this. No, I said hi earlier in the chat. Whatever, Rachel. I see how it is. All right, I'm going to quickly. I love that, Beth. I love that. ERP works. Yeah, COVID is a real curveball. It's hard to know where to draw the line between it and OCD. That is very true. It's a longer conversation. We'll talk about it next time. All right, let's see here. Just quickly cycling through. Oh, gotcha. Managed for mostly for depression after 2 years. I had stopped and hoped to not go back to them again to keep managing. Amazing. Absolutely. Sounds like a very smart, insightful, educated decision. And, continue to take it a beat at a time. But that's awesome. And I definitely think you can. Oh, we're at the bottom. Sorry, I was just reading. I don't want something to take me down where I was years compiling it for 8. Exactly. I mean, that's the reality, right? I love that, VG. Thank you, sir. Or ma'am. Or I always do that. But thank you very much. You are late to the party. You crashed my party and then ran. But Rachel from IOCDF, Rachel said hi to you. Shouldn't say hi to me. So we have beef now. Again, I can't, I don't know that I'd be totally honest I don't know that I'd be being totally honest saying like, if I got worst case scenario, like I would be able to be like, yeah, I can do the best I can. Who knows, right? But what I do know is having had OCD almost kill me, and I say that very literally, coming very close, to taking my own life. And even before that, OCD took my life, right? Even in a worst case scenario situation, there's still life to live. And OCD will take that precious time so much quicker. So it's just not worth it. It just isn't worth it. I mean, Beth said it right here, I can never go back to the beginning no matter what. Thank you so much, Ethan and everyone, especially thank you, Ethan and everyone. But that's it. I am just not willing to go back to the beginning. If I had a week to live, I'd rather live the hell out of that week than be compulsing 24 hours a day. So I'm sure it'd be challenging, but I at least like to stick by that. And, I'm sure it's harder, but we see lots of people that do just amazing things in the face of scary, scary stuff. Also, fear is interesting. Fear is interesting. Fear is amorphous, and fear changes. So for instance, I had a fear of going to the doctor and then discovering something. I no longer feared that when it happened. Fear changes, it morphs, right? Now the fear was, well, is it cancer? That's the big fear. But I'm not afraid of them finding something because they already did. So now I'm learning to live with the fear that existed, right? And now it's moved to something else. If it had been cancer, I would have no longer been afraid that it's cancer. That fear has now morphed into something else. And I am stronger for these things. So fear, there's some interesting books on how fear shifts and changes and your resilience around fear and the information as you're given it, and sort of as your fears become realities, your ability to cope with those fears. Whereas before, if you had told me, oh my God, if they find a mass on an MRI or a CAT scan, I won't be able to survive that. I survived it, right? So yeah, it's really interesting stuff. Thanks, Katie. You said massively. Hilarious pun. Anyway, no, I'm just kidding. Anyway, so, but yeah, that's at the end of the day. The biggest message, and I stand by it, and I've been saying it for, over a decade, OCD will take your life before anything else. It just will. And in this world of uncertainty, where you barely have certainty over anything, you can be certain that if you choose compulsion and OCD every time, your life will get smaller. That is a certainty. Isn't that interesting? In this whole gamut where we're told up, down, through, and sideways, we don't have certainty around almost anything in the world, right? We have to embrace uncertainty. You will certainly have a very small life if you keep choosing OCD. That is certain. And so, yeah, for those two reasons, choose life, choose values, choose yourself over OCD. And we're all here to support one another. It isn't a straight line. Cash in the house. Time to go. Let's wrap up. Late to the party, brother. Was a little quieter though. I did miss you. I did call you out at about like 7:15. I was like, why is it so quiet in here? So sending you love. All right. So with all that, this has been a really special conversation. So thank you. Thank you. And thank you for the great questions. Really, really good questions. I hope you found it helpful. I know I did. So with that, just some things happening here and about. As always, I want to thank the IOCDF for having me on. The IOCDF is a donor-supported nonprofit organization, so please consider making a donation here at iocdf.org/donate. Also, lots of things going on. Dude, they have so many banners here. Hard to do this yourself, but you somehow get through it. So coming up in November, feel free to Google. There is the OCD SoCal virtual conference, which is going to be amazing and huge. And shortly after that, you have the Faith and OCD conference, which is also going to be amazing. So if you haven't been on the IOCDF conference websites, take a look, see what's up. There's a lot of amazing programming coming up for November, including 2 huge conferences with great speakers and lots of community. And just, if you aren't able to attend the conferences in person, these are by far the next best things, and in many ways better in some ways. So cheaper for sure. So check them out. There's a couple big things coming up in November. I highly suggest you join. Oh, thanks, VG. I appreciate it. Oh, I'm laughing at Cash. He's hilarious. All right. So with all that, and as always, subscribe and follow on all the social media platforms, and that way you get alerted when any of us pop up and you happen to not be busy. Just pop on, and we're happy to have you and talk with all of that. Oh, and lastly, of course, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, need help, want to talk to somebody, you can always email the IOCDF at info@iocdf.org. I thought there's a banner for it. There's clearly not. We're just going to do this imperfectly tonight. And also, if you're looking for a provider, you can go to iocdf.org/find help, put in your zip code or country code, and there's some really great providers on there as well. All right. So with all that being said, I will be on 2 weeks from tonight. So thank you so much for spending your Tuesday/Wednesday, for those of you in Australia, evening/midday with me. So with that, stay safe, stay vigilant, feel the feels. Don't let OCD off the hook. And we'll see you in a couple weeks. Have a beautiful evening. Good night. This is where I also have to pause to find the thing. It's this thing. It's ooh. I can still talk though. It's kind of weird. That's okay. All right. Good night, everyone. Stay safe. Be well.